You have already killed 3 plants in that one spot. You know the spot. The strip along the north side of the house. The bed under the maple where the grass gave up. The corner behind the garage that gets 90 minutes of weak morning light and then nothing. You planted it, watched the plant stretch and go pale and die, went back to the garden center and did it again. And every one of those times, you were sold a plant that was never going to work there. Here is what nobody at the register will tell you. Walk into the shade section of any garden center in America and look at that bench. Hostas, ferns, more hostas, all foliage. And it is not because shade plants do not flower. It is because a flowering shade perennial looks like a pot of green leaves in May, which is when people shop. That bench is arranged around what sells in spring, not around what will bloom in your yard in July. And then there is the tag, that little plastic tag that says part shade. That phrase is doing an enormous amount of work, and it is not defined anywhere. Part shade at a nursery in Oregon and part shade on the north side of a house in Ohio are not the same conditions, and the tag will never tell you the difference. So today, I am going to give you the 13 best shade perennials that actually bloom. Not foliage plants, not leaves that are technically interesting. 13 perennials that will produce real flowers in real shade and come back every year with the named cultivars that perform, the zones they hold in, and for each one, the specific mistake that kills it. Before we start, do one thing. Put your USDA hardiness zone in the comments and tell me what kind of shade you are working with. Under trees, north side of a building, or shade from a fence. Those 3 are completely different growing conditions, and the plant that thrives in one will sulk in another. What people tell me in the comments decides which videos get made next here. We reply to every one. We start with the plant that should be in every shade bed in America and somehow is not. Astilbe X Arensi and its relatives. The feathery upright plumes you have seen in photographs of English gardens and assumed were difficult. They are not. They are one of the few perennials that genuinely bloom better in shade than in sun. And full sun will scorch the foliage brown by July. The cultivars matter here more than almost anywhere on this list. Perennial is where I would start. Deep blood-red plumes on bronze-green foliage, compact at 18 inches, and it holds its color in low light better than the pinks. Bridal veil is pure white and arching, and white is what you want in shade because it carries at dusk when everything else goes muddy. Visions is a denser raspberry purple under 2 feet for the front of a bed. All 3, zone 4 through 8. Here is the mistake that kills Astilbe. It will forgive shade. It will not forgive dry. Shallow fibrous roots, a real moisture requirement, and the most common failure is planting it under a mature tree whose roots take every drop of water first. Foliage crisps brown at the edges, the plumes never open, and the plant is gone in 2 seasons. So plant Astilbe in shade that is also moist along a downspout at the low end of a bed, on the north side of a building where the soil stays cool. Under a maple in dry soil does not work, no matter how much shade there is. If your only shade is dry shade, hold on, because number 12 was built for exactly that. Space them 18 inches apart and mulch with 2 inches of shredded leaf mulch, which holds the moisture that keeps them alive. The second one flowers when nothing else in your entire yard is alive. Hellebores X hybridus, sold as Lenten rose. It blooms in late winter, February and March across most of the country, sometimes pushing through snow. It does it in shade, and the foliage stays evergreen the rest of the year. Nothing else on this list gives you flowers in February. Ivory Prince is the workhorse. Creamy white flowers, flushed rose, upward facing on strong stems that hold the bloom where you can see it. That upward facing habit matters more than it sounds, because older hellebore varieties nod downward, and you have to physically lift the flower to see it. The Wedding Party series is the one to look for if you want doubles in deep plum and near black. Hardy zone 4 through 9. Hellebore is low maintenance, but there is one job almost nobody does. In late winter, before the flower stems push up, cut all of last year's foliage off at the base, all of it. Those old leaves are leathery, usually spotted with leaf blotch by then, and they hide the flowers completely. Cut them away and you get a clean bloom display and a healthier plant. The other thing to know is that hellebore hates being moved. It takes 2 or 3 years to settle in and then performs for decades. Choose the spot carefully, plant it, and leave it alone. Give it dappled shade under deciduous trees, winter sun when the canopy is bare, shade when the leaves come in. That is exactly its native rhythm. The third is the one people remember from a grandmother's garden and assume is old-fashioned. It is old-fashioned. It is also unbeatable in spring shade. Bleeding heart, Lamprocapnos spectabilis, arching stems hung with a row of perfect pink heart-shaped lockets in April and May in shade. Gold heart is the one worth seeking out because the chartreuse gold foliage lights up a dark corner even when the plant is not flowering. Alba is the pure white form, zones 3 through 9, nearly the entire country. Now the mistake, and it causes real panic. Bleeding heart goes dormant in midsummer. The foliage yellows, browns, and disappears entirely, usually in July. And every year, gardeners conclude it has died and dig it up. It has not died. It has completed its cycle, stored its energy, and gone to sleep until spring. So do 2 things. Do not dig it up and plan for the hole. Plant it next to something that fills in later, or you will have a bare patch from July to April. If you want the flower without the disappearing act, there is an alternative worth knowing. Dicentra luxuriant, a fringed leaf hybrid that stays in leaf all season and reblooms on and off into fall. Smaller flowers, far longer season, and it does not vanish on you. The fourth solves the problem that most shade gardens have, which is that everything finishes by June. Japanese anemone, Anemone X hybrida. It blooms from late August straight through to frost, in shade, on tall, wiry stems that hold the flowers above the foliage and catch every bit of available light. In a bed that has been all foliage since midsummer, this is what brings it back to life in September. Honorine Jobert is the one to buy. Pure white with a gold center on 3 to 4 foot stems. Named Perennial Plant of the Year by the Perennial Plant Association in 2016. In shade, white is the color that reads from across the yard at dusk. September Charm gives you a silvery pink, zones 4 through 8. 2 mistakes to avoid, and they pull in opposite directions. The first is impatience. Japanese anemone is famously slow to establish. Year 1, it does almost nothing. Year 2, it is unremarkable. Year 3, it takes off and blooms like it was always going to. A great many of these get dug out in year 2 by gardeners who assume they bought a dud. The second is the opposite. Once established, it spreads by underground runners, further than you intended in loose, moist soil. Excellent for filling a difficult area, a nuisance in a tight border. Plant it where spreading is a feature, back of a bed, along a fence line, under trees. Give it afternoon shade specifically. Morning sun is fine and improves flowering. Hot afternoon sun scorches it. The fifth is a native. It is the best ground cover on this list, and it flowers. Foamflower, Tiarella cordifolia, native to the eastern woodlands of the United States, which is exactly why it works in your shade. It evolved on a forest floor. In spring, it throws up bottle brush spires of white and pale pink above maple-shaped leaves, and most modern selections carry a dark burgundy marking down the center of each leaf all season. Sugar and spice is the standout for foliage. Deeply cut leaves with heavy dark centers. Running tapestry is what you plant for coverage, because it spreads by runners into a genuine carpet. Mount Cuba Center, a botanic garden in Delaware that runs multi-year trials on native perennials, has evaluated Tiarella extensively, and their work is why the running types are recommended for ground cover and the clumping types for edging, zones 4 through 9. The mistake here is planting it and then mulching over it. Foamflower spreads by surface runners that need contact with soil to root down. Bury those runners under 3 inches of bark mulch, and the plant cannot do the one thing you bought it for. Mulch lightly between plants when they are young, then let the foamflower itself become the ground cover. It wants humus, leaf litter, compost, the loose organic soil of a woodland floor. Into heavy clay, work compost in first. Consistent moisture the first season. After that, it is genuinely tough. Use this one under trees, along shaded walkways, and anywhere you are currently losing the battle against bare soil. Quick pause. Tell me in the comments which of these first 5 you already have in your yard and which corner of your property you are trying to solve. And your zone, if you have not put it in yet, it decides what we cover next here, and I mean that literally. The zone-specific videos on this channel exist because people asked for them in the comments. And subscribe before you go further, because number 7 is a plant that blooms in October, in shade, when your garden has nothing else left. Almost nobody in this country grows it, and I have never understood why. We reply to every comment. Number 6 is the one most people already own, and most people are growing wrong. Coral bells, Heuchera, mounds of ruffled foliage in caramel, lime, near black, silver-veined purple. Almost everybody buys them for the leaves and treats the flowers as an afterthought, which is a shame. The spikes are wiry and airy, tiny bells that hummingbirds work all summer. Caramel is the most forgiving, with amber-orange foliage that holds its color without scorching. Obsidian is nearly black and gives the strongest contrast against anything pale. If you want the flowers to be the main event, look for selections of our native Heuchera villosa. Mount Cuba Center's Heuchera trial found the villosa-based types dramatically outperformed the flashier hybrids in humid summers. Zones 4 through 9. Now the mistake, and it is the one that costs people their plants over winter. Heuchera has a woody crown that lifts. Over a few seasons, the plant pushes itself up out of the ground, and by the 3rd or 4th winter, the crown sits exposed above the soil and frost heave finishes it. The fix takes 90 seconds. Every couple of years, in early spring, lift the plant, cut off the woody lower section of the crown, and replant it deeper so the leaf rosette sits at soil level again. That is it. That single habit is the difference between a Heuchera that lasts 3 years and one that lasts 15. Give it bright shade. Dark shade will wash the foliage color out to plain green, and you will lose the whole reason you bought it. Number 7 is the plant I promised you, and I genuinely do not understand why more Americans do not grow it. Toad lily, Trichurtis hirta. In September and October, when everything else has gone over, it produces flowers that look like small orchids, waxy, upward-facing, white or pale lavender, heavily speckled with purple. Extraordinary up close and almost invisible from 10 feet away, which tells you exactly where to plant them. Sinonome is upright and vigorous with heavy spotting. Miyazaki arches gracefully and flowers along the whole length of the stem rather than only at the tip, which gives you far more bloom for the space. Zones 4 through 8. The mistake with toad lily is not how you grow it, it is where you put it. Plant this at the back of a border and you will never once look at the flowers, because at that distance they read as a green plant. This is a doorstep plant, a path edge plant, a plant for the bed you walk past every day on the way to the car. Put it within 4 feet of somewhere you actually stand. The requirements are simple and non-negotiable on one point: consistent moisture. Toad lily comes from woodland stream banks in Japan and will not tolerate drying out. Foliage scorches the moment it gets thirsty and stays ugly for the rest of the season. One more thing, it emerges late in spring, later than almost anything else. Mark the spot in fall so you do not dig into it in April, assuming nothing is there. Number 8 gives you a cloud of true blue in April and a silver glow for the rest of the year. Brunnera macrophylla, sometimes sold as false forget-me-not. In mid-spring, it produces sprays of clear sky blue flowers floating above heart-shaped leaves. True blue is rare in the garden and rarer still in shade, and this is the easiest way to get it. Jack Frost made this plant popular and earned it. Heavy silver overlay across the whole leaf with green veining, so the foliage reads almost white in a dark corner. Perennial Plant of the Year in 2012. Alexander's Great is the same idea at nearly twice the size. Zones 3 through 8. The mistake is sun. Brunnera is one of the few plants on this list where afternoon sun does visible damage within days. The leaf margins scorch brown, the silver goes dull, and the plant looks tired for the rest of the season. It does not recover until the following spring. If you have a spot that gets 2 hours of hot western sun, this is not the plant for it. The other thing worth knowing is that the silver cultivars are propagated by division, not seed. If your Jack Frost self-seeds, the seedlings come up plain green. Nothing has gone wrong. That is the species reverting. Pull them if you want the silver effect to stay clean. Deep shade, moist soil, and leave it alone. It will outlive you. Number 9 flowers in 2 colors at the same time on the same plant. Lungwort, Pulmonaria. In very early spring, before the trees leaf out, it produces clusters of flowers that open pink and age to blue, so one cluster carries both colors at once. It is among the first things blooming in the shade garden, and one of the first food sources for bumblebees coming out of hibernation. Raspberry Splash gives coral pink to violet flowers over narrow silver-spotted leaves. Trevi Fountain is cobalt blue, with better mildew resistance than the older varieties, which matters. Mildew is this genus's one real weakness. Zones 3 through 8. The mistake is what you do in July. Lungwort foliage very often goes shabby by midsummer, mildewed, tired, flopping. Most people either ignore it and it looks bad until frost, or they conclude the plant is diseased and remove it. Do neither. Cut the entire plant to the ground. In 3 weeks, it produces a fresh flush of clean silver-spotted foliage that stays attractive through fall. You are removing foliage that has stopped paying its way and letting the plant rebuild. It feels drastic the first time. Do it anyway. And if mildew keeps coming back, the cause is almost always dry soil and poor air movement, not an infection you need to spray. If you're getting value out of this, subscribe. Everything on this list has a named cultivar and a hardiness range, because generic advice is what got you the 3 dead plants in the first place. And stay with me, because number 12 is the answer for the hardest situation in all of gardening, which is dry shade under a mature tree, where the tree takes the water and the light and nothing else stands a chance. If that is your yard, that one is for you. Tell me your zone below if you have not. We reply to every comment. Number 10 is the biggest, boldest thing you can put in a shady, wet spot. Ligularia. If you have a low corner that stays damp, a spot near a downspout or heavy soil that holds water after rain, this turns your worst drainage problem into the best feature in the yard. Enormous leaves and tall spikes of intense golden yellow and orange in mid to late summer. Britt Marie Crawford is the one to buy. Glossy, deep chocolate purple leaves, nearly black, with orange-yellow daisy flowers held above them. The contrast is dramatic and nothing else in a shade bed looks remotely like it. The Rocket is the other classic, with tall, narrow spires of yellow on black stems, reaching 4 to 5 feet. Zones 4 through 8. Here is the mistake, and it will scare you the first time. Ligularia wilts dramatically in afternoon heat. The whole plant collapses, leaves hanging straight down, looking completely dead, and then recovers fully by evening. Every gardener who grows this plant panics the first time and drowns it with water it does not need. The wilt is a heat response, not a drought response. The plant is losing moisture through those huge leaves faster than the roots can replace it, and it rehydrates as soon as the sun moves off. Check the soil before you react. If the soil is moist, do nothing. That's Number 11 is native. It is fragrant, and it carpets the ground in blue. Woodland Phlox, Phlox divaricata. Not the tall border phlox that gets mildew, not the creeping phlox on rock walls. The woodland species, native across the eastern half of the United States. And in April and May, it produces a low haze of fragrant lavender blue across the floor of a shade bed. Blue Moon has notably rounded, overlapping petals in a rich violet blue, and it is strongly scented, which is a genuine rarity in shade plants. May Breeze is an icy near white that lifts a dark bed. Mount Cuba Center trialed the phlox genus extensively and their work on the woodland species is worth knowing if you want to go deeper. Zones 3 through 8. The mistake is treating it like the border phlox and giving it too much sun and too much fertilizer. Woodland phlox wants what a forest floor gives it: dappled light, cool soil, decayed leaf litter, and nothing else. Rich, fertilized soil produces soft, floppy growth that mildews. The second mistake is cleaning up too aggressively. It spreads by stems that root where they touch the ground, and it self-seeds gently. Rake the bed to bare soil every fall, and you remove both mechanisms, and the colony never expands. Leave the leaf litter. That is correct management for a woodland planting, not laziness. Plant it alongside anything that emerges later. It will have finished its display by the time the summer plants fill in over the top of it. Number 12 is the one I promised for the hardest spot in your yard: Epimedium, also sold as barrenwort. This is the answer to dry shade under a mature tree, where the roots take every drop of water and the canopy takes the light, and where I told you not to plant Astilbe. Epimedium does not just survive there. It slowly forms a dense, elegant ground cover with delicate spurred flowers in spring like tiny orchids on wiry stems. Lenten has yellow flowers and glossy foliage with striking red veining on the new growth, and it is one of the toughest selections available. Ligularia gives you violet-purple flowers over foliage that emerges with a bronze flush. Zones 5 through 9 with several selections reliable into Zone 4. Two things to know. The first is that Epimedium is slow. It will not fill a space in one season, and if you expect coverage by August, you will pull it out in frustration. Plant at 12 to 15-inch spacing. Water well through the first full year, and then it becomes genuinely drought-tolerant and effectively permanent. You are placing this for the next 20 years. The second is the trim. Cut last year's foliage off at the base in late winter before the flower stems emerge. Those semi-evergreen leaves persist, looking rough, and completely obscure the flowers, which are small and held low. Leave them and you will barely know it bloomed. Do not fertilize it. Do not overwater it once established. This is a plant that succeeds on neglect. And the 13th is the one that gives a shade bed its architecture: Solomon's seal, Polygonatum odoratum variegatum. Arching stems 2 to 3 feet long, lined with green leaves edged in crisp white, and in spring rows of small white bells, hanging in pairs underneath the whole length of every stem. They are fragrant. In fall, the plant turns clear butter yellow, and that alone is worth it. It was named Perennial Plant of the Year by the Perennial Plant Association in 2013, and deserved it. Very little else gives you spring flower, all-season structure, variegated foliage, and fall color in one plant, in shade, with essentially no maintenance. Zones 3 through 8. The mistake with Solomon's seal is planting it too far back. Those flowers hang underneath the arching stem, and if you plant it behind other things, you will never see them. It wants to be at the edge of a raised bed, along a path, at the top of a slope, anywhere the eye can get under the arch. It spreads slowly by rhizome, useful rather than aggressive. A clump widens politely over the years and divides easily in early spring. It asks for almost nothing: shade, soil that is not bone dry, and no intervention whatsoever. If you plant one thing from this entire list and you want the highest chance of success with the least work, plant this. Before you go, 3 things about planting in shade specifically, because the technique is different and nobody covers it. First, the real problem in most shade is not light, it is root competition. Under a mature tree, you are fighting a root system that got there first and takes the water. Do not dig a large bed under a tree. You will damage the tree and lose anyway. Dig individual planting pockets between the major roots and accept that those plants need supplemental water for their whole first year. Second, feed the soil, not the plant. Shade soil under trees is usually thin, dry, and depleted. The fix is not fertilizer. It is an inch of compost and 2 inches of shredded leaf mulch spread on the surface every fall and letting the worms take it down. That is how a forest floor builds itself, and it is the only approach that works long-term. Third, and this is for anyone watching who finds getting down to ground level harder than it used to be. You do not have to dig a bed to garden in shade. Large containers in a shaded spot will grow Hellebore, Heuchera, Brunnera, and Astilbe perfectly well. A raised bed at waist height solves the kneeling problem entirely, and a 1-gallon plant establishes just as well as a 3-gallon one while being far easier to carry. There is no rule that says any of this has to be hard on your back, so that is 13 shade perennials that actually bloom. Astilbe for moist shade, Hellebore for February, Bleeding Heart for spring, with the disappearing act you now know to expect, Japanese anemone for September, Foamflower for coverage, coral bells for foliage and hummingbirds, toad lily for October, planted where you will actually see it, Brunnera for true blue, Lungwort for the earliest bees, Ligularia for wet corners, Woodland Phlox for fragrance, Epimedium for dry shade under trees, and Solomon's seal for structure, which is the one to plant if you only plant one. Not a single one of those is a hosta, and that is worth sitting with, because the reason you thought shade meant foliage is that the shade bench at the garden center is arranged around what photographs well in May. Every plant on this list has been flowering on woodland floors for thousands of years, in conditions the tag on the pot would call a problem. Now tell me in the comments, which spot in your yard are you finally going to fix? The north side of the house, under the tree, or the corner behind the garage? And which of these 13 is going in first? Be specific, because I read every one, and when a lot of people describe the same problem, it becomes the next video. And put your USDA zone with it. That is not a formality. The zone-by-zone videos on this channel exist entirely because people asked for them exactly like this, and I want to know where this community is gardening. If you know someone who has been told their shady yard is a lost cause, send them this video. Just send the link. Subscribe if you have not already. We publish new videos every week and we reply to every comment. I will see you in the next one.